that. No. Well, a new lawsuit, if successful, could create a huge problem for gun manufacturers. Now, here's a story. Daniel Williams is suing a gun maker called High Point. Williams says High Point sold guns to an irresponsible dealer. The dealer sold the guns illegally to a trafficker, who then sold the guns to a man who was convicted of shooting Williams. All rise. Judge Andrew Napolitano is here to help us connect those dots logically and legally. I mean, I guess you can sue anyone, but does this have any merit?
Well, in my view, it doesn't have merit. In my view, this is a very dangerous lawsuit because you could extrapolate this to other areas of human behavior in which you are trying to find a culpable defendant who was so remote to the harm that it's really unfair to burden the defendant with the cost of the harm. Should General Motors have to pay for every automobile accident because one of their cars ends up in the hands of somebody who's a lousy driver? I mean, we don't have that kind of litigation in the United States. The Second Amendment is a particularly troublesome area because these lawsuits were tried about 7 or 8 years ago, and many states reacted with legislation intended to insulate the manufacturer from harm caused by the ultimate user, because the distance between manufacturer and ultimate user is so great, the manufacturer cannot control in whose hands the instrument he's manufactured will ultimately end up. The state of New York has such legislation, and a panel of appellate division judges yesterday ignored it. Just ignored it as if it didn't exist and basically said this legislation can go forward. So an innocent, injured person in New York.
Second, Judge, on that note, when an appellate division does something like this, are they? Is it sort of a de facto way of actually trying to not interpret the law but
nullify it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a way for 5 judges to say, we disagree with the way the Second Amendment is being interpreted today, and we disagree with what a liberal state like the state of New York did. It's not to protect the right of thugs to use guns. It's to insulate innocent manufacturers from the inappropriate use of their products. Because as we were kiddingly saying before we went on air, almost any product can be used in a way or by a person that the manufacturer doesn't intend. Should the manufacturer be liable for that? We have answered consistently for 200 years, no. Now you have 5 judges, just 5 judges in New York, trying to change that.
Taken to its logical conclusion, you brought up automobiles, some other things have been brought up. This would open an amazing can of worms, though. Let's fast forward. Let's say President Obama is reelected and he has an opportunity to make changes in the Supreme Court. Could the makeup be designed where their actions would be very similar to these 5 appellate judges you just described? Could they actually reinterpret the Constitution?
We have 2 major decisions that came down from the Supreme Court in the past 4 years with basically the same makeup, at least the same ideological breakdown, both of which have articulated the Second Amendment in its original purpose. It exists so that people can easily get guns, law-abiding people, to protect themselves when the police can't or won't be there. Or in the ultimate case, to shoot at the government if it is taken over by tyrants. That's what these opinions say. A single changed vote on the Supreme Court could nullify those opinions and take away our ability to defend ourselves.
Wouldn't the guiding law on this, it wouldn't be the Second Amendment. Wouldn't it be more some kind of commerce or legislation and laws that have to do with trade? Why would this be a Second Amendment case when it has to do with the dealer? And we were talking before,
Adam,
different kinds of situations.
That is a profound question. It would have to do with the Second Amendment if the judges involved were looking for a way to curtail Second Amendment rights and chose to look at it that way rather than the simple commercial way, that if we do this to manufacturers of guns, who's next? What will this do to insurance rates? What will this do to the cost of products if a manufacturer is always responsible for the behavior of the end user?
In other words, if we're being honest about what this is all about, I think most people feel it is some sort of indictment by these 5 appellate judges against the Second Amendment. Judge Napolitano.